you know, devil's advocate, like what do you think the solve to that is? Because we talk with a lot of people and we see a lot of systemic undervaluing of existing services as it sits. So there's a lot of juxtaposition there in the sense of you've got a profession that is really good at undervaluing what they do, and maybe to your point, not really understanding that there's a lot more that business owners would appreciate you doing, like helping with the human aspect. But how do you match those two up in the middle? Like, how do you get a professional to wrap their head around that? And, like basically what I'm talking about is not worrying about, or worrying less about, the perception of what the value is that you're providing the business owner. Because I fundamentally believe that that's what a lot of this ends up coming down to is there's some people out there that understand that's what needs to be done, but some people are maybe scared about charging for it.
I think there's a little bit of that people are scared of charging for it. But I also do think there's been a push towards advisory when a very large percentage of clients don't see the value or don't want it. Realistically, just like you were saying, IFRS and GAAP are for the top 5% of companies. You could say similar things about consulting. Not 100% of companies and small businesses, if you're using like the full definition, including freelancers, need it. There is a percentage. There's over a certain gross revenue where finance becomes the limiting factor and they need to know finances. But if we're all being real honest with ourselves, you could totally wing finances under a certain gross revenue, right? And we've all kind of stepped into companies where like, holy shit, how are you alive? Right? Where they've never looked at finances beyond their bank balance. Their tax return is always late. Everything is screwed up, but like they're still chugging along and they're making good money. And I think part of the issue is that we're afraid to charge for the value, right? Like you're saying, we don't know how to structure it, because the thing is, like, for a tax prep engagement or for an accounting engagement, we know what goes into it. We know what the deliverable is. But like I said, with me finding my flavor of consulting, you need to figure out how you're helping clients. And that's weird for accountants. And I think that's why we're kind of so focused on cash flow forecasting, because it is compliance. It has a deliverable. It has a process. It has a checklist, but it's proactive, right? But I think a lot of it is we'll all have to find our flavor of consulting, what it is we're super good at helping clients with. And it's something I'm still kind of working my way through. Is it just me kind of coming in and overhauling their finance system and be like, this is how cash flow should be done, according to me, right? I don't know. It's those two things. And the last one, like I was saying, that plenty of clients don't want consulting. And it is fine. And if an accountant does not want to offer consulting and they just want to offer compliance, that's perfectly okay. For every client that buys consulting time with me, has a consulting retainer of some sort, there's another 10 that are compliance only. Because the reality is that as much as I would love to be purely a consultant, at this point, I don't have the size of an audience for it. I don't have enough clients coming in that see the value and care. And compliance pays bills, right? As much as we all hate the ticky-tacky, doing the bookkeeping stuff, that pays bills. Someone's got to pay my rent. Like, you know what I mean? Like the money. And as much as we should always be like, oh, we only take the ideal client that has the ideal service offering. When someone comes and they're like, we need a full accounting engagement and you have the capability, and they're like, we'll pay you $5,000 a month for it. Yeah. All right. Yeah. I'll take that. So I think advising and consulting is a weird space in accounting right now. And until it's defined and people will see the value in their own current work, it's going to stay a weird space.
Do you think it ever can be defined? We've had this discussion, not we, but we as in Helm have had this discussion with other people in the past where, advisory is a huge catch-all term that really can mean, I could be a bookkeeper and be an advisor, and I can be a tax person and be an advisor. I'm just advising in my respective space. So like, where do you draw the line? And from my perspective, I feel like that really does hone down to what's your ideal client, what do they value, and can you tailor what you want to do and how you want to do it to them?
I think you can define advisory, but we're going to have to get more nuanced than what we're doing now. Because right now we're just like, everyone should become an advisor. And that'd be like saying we all do accounting, which is like such a catch all for what we all do. Right. And we're going to have to niche down the different kinds of advising. Like you said, tax advising. You know, maybe instead of just calling it advisory and we all just do advisory, you know, you specialize just in tax advisory. That's where you're at. You're super knowledgeable about some sort of weird entity structure in your country. So like trusts in the US, you're just like crazy knowledgeable about it. Then you can advise in just trust taxes. But I think as long as we just kind of give the catch-all term, it's like when you're an accountant who doesn't do taxes and you go to a family event or a cocktail hour and you're like, I'm an accountant. And they're like, you do taxes? No,
Yeah.
there's other types, right? There's other types of accounting. And I think we all have to figure out the types of advising we can all do. And yeah,
That's not just a problem at dinner parties. I just had a discussion with my wife last night about, oh, my dad's moving back into Calgary where we live and he needs a new accountant. You can do his personal taxes. It's like, honey, I only do corporate.
You're like, I don't even do ours.
I can't do that. What do you mean? You're an accountant? No.
And that's the thing. Like, I have clients that are accountants. You know, they're like controllers at companies, but like they don't do their tax return. And I think that's the problem we have with advising right now, that we need to kind of niche it down and define what the types of advising are, and all stop jumping on top of the cash flow forecast train, because I think it's overrated. I think a lot of businesses don't need cash flow forecasting help, even though, like I said, it's important. I think a lot of businesses don't need the help. They need the help with the processes and the behind the scenes admin stuff and getting up from there, right? They're not ready for consulting.
Sorry, I was just trying to read a chat and now I lost it there.
All right, we'll go on a tangent.
That's funny. I think somebody was going to say it's a good tangent that we're on right now, but I don't know where that message went.
All of my tangents are good. No, but
Right?
it's the point. Like, for the people watching the recording and that don't have the chat, Beverly is saying that the tangent is right. It's advisory for who? You know, is it an industry, a client profile, or a professional profile, right? And that's a thing we're kind of leaving out of the conversation. Right? We all said we have to be proactive. Cash flow is the way. But there's different types of advising. There's different industries that need advising. Like, I don't touch on like construction businesses. I could not advise a construction business tomorrow. And I have construction clients, but like, it's a space and you need some sort of expertise and knowledge in there. Like, and maybe we also have to define advising by industry too. Right? There are huge differences between, you know, for example, construction, retail and e-com, and service businesses. You know, a lot of what I talk about from a cash flow perspective works in service businesses. It does not work in construction, right?
Yep.
It's a different beast, right?
Yeah.